an ADOS dude, there was an ADOS dude named Bill something, Bill the Icon.
Bring up all the dirty laundry.
But he turned himself in today so that he could start the process of telling his side of the story.
This is video of Yaqub Talib getting booked into the Dallas County Jail Monday after police obtained a murder warrant for his arrest.
He wanted to turn himself in from the start, but he wanted a chance to talk to his lawyers first.
That's Talib's attorney, Clark Birdsall.
Mr. Talib feels terrible for the loss of life.
Lancaster police said the deadly shooting happened before 9 p.m. Saturday at a preseason Pee Wee football game between the North Dallas United Bobcats and the DEA Dragons. We're told Talib coached for the Bobcats. The victim, Mike Hickmon, coached for the Dragons. Witnesses told investigators there was a disagreement between the opposing coaches over calls made by the officials. Video posted to social media shows several adults getting angry and then things getting physical on the field before you hear several gunshots being fired. The 43-year-old Hickmon died at the hospital. Lancaster police say they identified Talib as the shooter.
He feels terrible the whole thing happened, but I think there's heavy defensive overtones to what happened out there on that playing field, and in time, that'll all come out.
When I asked Birdsall if he'd share Talib's side of the story,
no, I'll just leave it at what I've said there.
Documents show Talib was arrested for possession of a firearm by a felon and marijuana in May 2021. Talib is also the brother of former NFL cornerback Aqib Talib, who Birdsall told me was at Saturday's game too, a game that left former UNT star Hickmon dead.
So there's some anger out there. I can see that on the social media, but they don't know the full story.
And when I asked how much longer until we'll know the full story,
I couldn't say right now.
In Dallas, I'm Mira Placencia.
So yeah, this is a tragedy all the way around, and a couple of details I want to add to the story that I'm just learning about. And again, this is in regards to Aqib Talib, former NFL player Aqib Talib's brother, Yaqub Talib, who allegedly shot and killed Coach Mike Hickmon after a Pee Wee Little League football game. Again, you heard the news report, but reports coming out today are adding a few wrinkles to the narrative. Some of the coaches from the opposing team are claiming that it was actually Aqib Talib who threw the first punch, sparking the melee, which led to his brother pulling a pistol and shooting Coach Hickmon again. And as you saw in the news clip that I just showed you, his defense attorney, Yaqub's defense attorney, is pretty much suggesting that it's going to be a self-defense narrative or defense mounted in his case. And this is Texas, so they do have self-defense laws. It is a castle doctrine state. But I just don't believe in this situation. I've seen another angle of the altercation. And from what I've seen and from what I've read regarding Texas self-defense laws, it doesn't seem as if a use of force was permissible in that situation. It just seems as if it was a physical altercation, and from what I saw in the scuffle, as the scuffle kind of, developed, you can see, and I don't want to show the video because YouTube, I may post the video, but YouTube's tripping, so just going to give you the narrative. And it seems as if as the scuffle broke out, Coach Mike Hickmon was surrounded by a group of men. They seemed to have all black on. And he was, backing away quickly, and he had a yard marker in his hand as if he was, wielding it defensively to protect himself. Because, again, it seemed as if it was 3 to 4 to 5 guys surrounding him. As he backpedaled, he fell to the ground. The yardstick or the yard marker dropped to the ground. He popped back up to his feet and looked like he was about to re-engage with the group of gentlemen when one of the gentlemen, you can see, pulled out the gun, extended his hand, and shot off a round. And as he was shooting, Coach Mike Hickmon got out the way. He turned and ran, and as he was running away, The gunman continued to fire and eventually hitting Hickmon from what appeared to be the back, and you can see Hickmon falling to the ground. And again, as you know the story, Hickmon later died, was pronounced dead at a local area hospital. But as it pertains to Texas self-defense laws, Texas Penal Code 9.31 says a person is justified in using force against another when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the force is immediately necessary to protect the actor against the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force. And I am getting this from shhouselaw.com. And again, they cite Texas Penal Code 9.31. And it's going to be pretty hard to prove self-defense in this case. Again, there seemed to be a 5-on-1 situation. Coach Hickmon seemed to be wielding a yardstick or a yard marker for a brief moment. When he fell to the ground, the yard marker fell from his hand. And as he stood back up, he was not armed. Again, it was a 5-on-1 or whatever the number was. And that's when Yaqub Talib allegedly pulled out the gun and fired off several rounds. But let's look at a couple of points about the self-defense laws. First, what is self-defense? Self-defense is a legal defense to an allegation of a violent crime. Defendants who argue they acted in self-defense claim that their conduct was justified. It was justified because it was only done to prevent someone else's use of unlawful force. Self-defense is a common defense strategy in certain criminal cases. Among these are assault, murder, manslaughter, and domestic violence. When can someone legally defend themselves? Well, Texas's self-defense law allows people to defend themselves when faced with unlawful force. However, the person has to reasonably believe the force is immediately necessary. So whether that belief was reasonable or not is going to be a crucial aspect of Talib's defense, if that's what he chooses to go with. Now, in light of these developments being added to the narrative that Aqib Talib actually threw the first punch, if this is true, and from what we can see on the recording, Hickmon was being attacked by several men. So it seems as if Hickmon was the one defending himself, and the Talibs were on the offensive, as it states that the melee began after the referees made a call that the opposing coaches didn't like the team that was being coached by the Talibs. And Aqib ran across the field and threatened to punch the referee in the face. This is according to eyewitnesses. And they actually have 3 eyewitnesses who are pointing the finger at the retired NFL cornerback for instigating the entire brawl. And again, this is what the coaches from the opposing team are saying, so we have to take it with a grain of salt, as it was their man who was shot and killed. However, this is what they're saying. Dragon Elite coach Kerry Lewis, he said this during a phone interview on Monday, that Aqib incited the whole uproar. The game would have never been stopped had Aqib not come over to our sideline to yell at the refs. And then you have Dragon Elite defensive coordinator Marty Barnett. He says Aqib started this. He was the first person to throw a punch. Out of all the people, he was the one person who could have de-escalated the situation. He was the one person we all would have listened to. He could have stopped it all. Now, Aqib Talib's attorney, Frank Perez, is disputing this narrative. He stated that the story is inaccurate. He says you need to talk with all of the witnesses, not just the opposing coaches. He says he'll be happy, more than happy, to make a statement at the end of the week when they have conducted a full investigation. So yeah, the incident was kicked off again after a penalty was thrown that gave the Dragon Elite a first down. One play later, the Dragon Elite scored the go-ahead touchdown. Lewis, Barnett, and the third assistant, Heath Mays, described the events that led to the fatal shooting. They're saying Aqib got irate at this point when the Dragon Elite scored the go-ahead touchdown. That's when Aqib walked across the field to confront the referee. Lewis said Aqib threatened the ref, saying, "I ought to sock your bitch ass now." And he also stated that it was so weird because all of the tension was between them and the refs. There was no problem between the coaches. He says, "We all know each other. Kerry Lewis and Yaqub have coached together." He said he followed Aqib's whole career, starting at Kansas. The other thing is that it was their event. It was actually Aqib Talib's event. They were the hosts. They hired and paid the refs. The refs were not cheating for us. So that's another aspect to this whole scenario, is that the football game was being sponsored and hosted by the Talibs. And for it to end with one of them actually allegedly murdering an opposing coach, it's just insane. So they're saying, according to Coach Mays, that Hickmon attempted to pick up the football, but the person working the first down chains kicked the football into an area where the North Dallas coaches were gathered. Hickmon again tried to pick it up, but then Aqib Talib swung at him. Hickmon retaliated by hitting him with the yard marker. And they said Hickmon would soon find himself being jumped by multiple people and then gunshots. And they say there's no justification for having a weapon at a kid's football game, and I agree. They said it's 90 degrees outside and you're wearing a black hoodie. None of it makes sense. Our babies were all there. Yaqub's kids were there. Mike's kids. Football fields are supposed to be a safe haven for these kids. This is where they go to get away from the street life. They come here to feel safe, but it's not like that anymore. Yaqub Talib's attorney, whose name is Clark Birdsall, made a statement saying, of course, that you heard that Talib regrets the tragic loss of life, but self-surrendered this morning so that he may have the chance to say his side of the story. And that's when he went to intimate that it may be a self-defense wrinkle. And but we'll definitely keep an eye on that aspect. But another thing I wanted to add was just a few years ago, another tragedy struck the Hickmon family when Mike Hickmon's own sister was actually murdered, taken violently. And I guess this was back in 2020, the summer of 2020. And I'm just gleaning from an article really quickly. And they say Jennifer Hickmon, 37, a physical education coach and teacher at Dallas ISD's Young Men's Leadership Academy in Pleasant Grove, was found slain in her southeast Oak Cliff home on Sunday, July 12, 2020. They say the 13-year instructor knew every student's name and had a natural ability to connect with kids, her driving goal to better their lives. They say Hickmon, 37, was found slain July 12th at her southeast Oak Cliff home. On Tuesday, Dallas police announced they had a suspect, Jeffrey Allen Scott, 35 at the time, who was being held in Hayes County Jail on $2 million bond after exchanging gunfire with a Texas state trooper. So yeah, this is I'm not going to say back-to-back tragedies, but yeah, this was just 2 years ago when the Hickmon family lost a loved one. And again, her name is Jennifer Hickmon. She was 37 when she was found slain in her Dallas, her Oak Cliff area home. And apparently it was a domestic dispute. I'm not going to get into the full details here. They don't really speak about the case in this article that I am pulling from. They mostly just talk about Hickmon, her life, and those who knew her and how they are remembering her. But yeah, it's definitely going to hit hard. That another sibling was taken violently in a tragic situation. And again, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, because if Aqib Talib was the one that started this fight, then he is more than likely going to be charged with the crime as well, some sort of accessory, or at least with assault, battery, whatever the case may be. But he may be charged with a crime, and I'm not sure if this is going to affect his status with Fox and Amazon, as he does work as an analyst for Amazon Prime at the current time. But this is senseless. This is not something that you're going to see or hear talked about much on ESPN, if at all. They're going to totally ignore this story. You won't see Black Lives Matter making a statement. You won't see Benjamin Crump or Al Sharpton making a statement or convening a march. You won't see any of the sort when it comes to this sort of scenario that we're pretty much becoming desensitized to. We're seeing it all too often. We're out here picking each other off at will. I mean, black on black, communal violence is what I like to call it, rather than black on black. It's communal violence. It's community violence. Violence usually occurs amongst people who are somewhat acquainted, who live within proximity of one another, who usually have dealings with one another on a consistent basis. And this is one of those situations because, again, the cultures were well acquainted with each other. This was an event that was convened by the Talibs, so everyone knew everyone. For it to escalate, for Aqib Talib, if what they're saying is true, to haul off and punch that man for no apparent reason, other than being angry with the refs and the way they lost a game that did not matter. Apparently this wasn't even a game that mattered or counted towards anything. I think it was pretty much like a preseason game or just a scrimmage, a glorified scrimmage. And the end result was one of the coaches lost his life due to gun violence by one of the opposing coaches. And, it just doesn't look good because Aqib Talib does not really have the reputation as being a saint or a peacemaker. He always carried, an edgy attitude, willing to get into it, willing to talk that talk, and, has had run-ins with the law throughout his career. One time I believe he was shot in the leg. They say that they believe that he shot his own self in the leg. The brother, Yaqub, has pending charges. He has been charged, I believe, with a gun possession, methamphetamine, marijuana. So neither one of them is a stranger to walking on the wrong side of the law. What do they say here? Records show that Yaqub Talib was recently indicted on gun and drug charges. They say last Wednesday, just 3 days before Hickmon's slaying, Talib was indicted on a methamphetamine charge. In March, a grand jury indicted Talib on an unlawful possession of a gun charge. And that was, again, Yaqub Talib, and those cases are still pending. They're saying... Yeah, in 2014, Aqib Talib made news after being arrested after a fight at a Dallas nightclub. Witnesses reported a heavily intoxicated Talib was throwing bottles and fighting people. A Dallas police employee mistakenly named Aqib Talib as being involved in the fight. A later department published Aqib Talib's name on social media in connection with the incident. They later apologized to Aqib Talib for the mistake. But Yaqub was arrested on a public intoxication charge, but not sure how that case was disposed of. So yeah, again, no stranger to the law, walking on the wrong side, currently facing several charges related to drugs and weapons. So yeah, again, not looking good for Talib, Yaqub that is, and not looking good for Aqib as he may be pulled into the dragnet. So yeah, just wanted to tap in. I did want to wait a while and let it breathe and see if any other developments or details about the incident occurred, and I'm glad I waited. I was able to give you a little more information than what was previously known. And if it calls for follow-up, I'll hit you again with another follow-up. But this just goes to prove my tagline and what I say all the time. What doesn't come out in the wash always comes out in the rinse. And this is your man online, Bill Money. Hop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Smash like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you on the other side.